Taupe friends. My name is Constance and this is Cruelty Free Musings. Today we are doing a Serious Talk Tuesday. I know it's been a minute. It has been a minute since I uploaded any serious content other than like the No Buy little miniature series. Yes, Serious Talk Tuesday. So the reason that I started my channel in the first place is that I wanted to know what ingredients I should be looking for and at to give me a sense of whether something was going to be cruelty free or not. Now, it turns out that that's not necessarily super reliable, but there is no information on it out there in the world whatsoever. So I decided this is something that I can do with my time, with my vocal cords, with my brain and my computer doing research. I can look at ingredients and tell you stuff about them. So we're going to be, I guess, starting a mini-series inside of Serious Talk Tuesday. And I'm going to start off with glycerin. Okay, so first of all, what is glycerin even? Let's start with the basic thing. It's used in moisturizers because it's a humectant. That means it attracts water out of the air into your skin. If you live in somewhere that's really dry, it can attract water out of the deeper layers of your skin up to the top layer of your skin. So it actually dehydrates your skin. So be careful if you live in Arizona with how much glycerin you use. But it's a really good moisturizer if you live anywhere that's humid, because it will be drawing moisture out of the air and attracting it into your skin. That's why it's in so many things. So one of the first things that I did when I started doing research into cruelty-free, when I had decided that I was going to be cruelty-free, is I looked at the massive list of ingredients on the PETA website about, things to be cautious around. These can be animal derived. And this is the only source of information that is easily accessible about what products are animal derived. We'll get into PETA a little bit more later, but let's just say that I'm not necessarily concerned with whether a product is animal derived, full stop. It doesn't matter to me whether I'm putting honey on my skin. For example, some people, it matters to them. It doesn't matter to me. So I took PETA's list with a large grain of salt, but one of the things that it says about glycerin is it can be vegetable derived or animal derived. What does that mean? Well, glycerin is a very, very processed form of fat. And there are plants that produce fat. For example, vegetable oil, olive oil, coconut oil, those are all plant-derived fats. And then there are animals that produce fat. Now, personally, I don't have a problem with using fat that was produced in the slaughter system in the food industry to like repurposing that. I don't have an ethical problem with that per se. So, like, I eat meat that comes out of slaughterhouses anyway. I'm not vegetarian. I have no interest in being vegetarian. And right now, my budget does not... my budget and my awareness and my priorities don't line up with me purchasing, free-range, ethically farmed, ethically slaughtered meat. I am expecting this to become important to me at some point. It's not important to me right now. Right now, part of being cruelty-free is pulling back my spending and making sure that I'm being ethical with my things that I'm doing that are optional. Putting powder and liquids on your face is about as optional as it gets. Eating is not optional. So it'll become part of this scrutiny eventually. It's just not there yet. So with that perspective in mind, I don't have a problem with animal-derived glycerin in my beauty products, per se, if it comes from the food industry. I'm already participating in the food industry because I'm not a vegetarian, I'm not vegan, I'm not interested in that lifestyle. So, I would prefer for the entire animal to be used and for there not to be any waste. I went into this in some detail in my natural hair brushes video. My perspective on, whether animal hair brushes are good, in what cases am I okay with them? Answer, not really okay with mink, because it's not really possible to farm mink in a way that doesn't completely change their environment from what it would naturally be. But totally okay with goat, squirrel, badger, animals that can be sheared or are pest animals, and their corpses are going to wind up in brush factories. Like, I'd rather them be there and the fur be used than it just end up rotting. Like, I would rather use the whole thing. It's a very, I suppose, pioneer way of looking at it. So I'm trying to apply this ethic to something which I think is good, but which has been approached from the opposite direction. Let's not hurt animals at all. Okay, fine. But I'm going to keep eating turkey. So I mean, like, I think it's more cohesive for me to approach cruelty-free, this lifestyle of cruelty-free beauty use from the perspective that I inherently live, which is I was brought up super conservative and devoutly religious and family-oriented and all of that. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to integrate this, my essential perspective on the world with this ethical frame that I don't think we should be torturing animals, because I don't think we should be torturing anything or anyone, because what kind of human wants to hurt things? And I don't have a problem with killing animals to eat them. But I do have a problem with killing animals to eat them and then letting the rest of the animal go to waste. So with that in mind, glycerin that is animal derived, I'm not opposed to. But PETA is. So this was the thing that really sparked it for me. I was like, am I actually okay with using glycerin in things that might be animal derived? To put another layer on top of this, I eat semi-kosher or biblically kosher, is how I generally describe it. The way that it affects my life the most is that I do not eat pork, I do not eat shrimp, I do not eat bottom feeders like catfish. I don't eat shellfish. That's how it affects my life as an American. There are other things that would affect your life in other areas of the world. But for me, the main thing that it affects is I don't eat pork and I don't eat shrimp. This tug of war between am I okay with using something on my face, rubbing it into my skin and my hands? Am I okay with putting something on my face that I would not put into my mouth? Because this is the reality of the situation. The slaughterhouses feed the cosmetics industry. They produce massive amounts of waste products, and they send them to other processing situations, and then the results of that processing go out into other industries. And Americans eat a lot of pork. So am I okay with potentially putting an animal-derived glycerin, which would undoubtedly have some pork fat in it natively, on my face and on my hands and on my lips, where I am of course going to eat it, because yeah, glycerin is also an ingredient in a lot of lip balms and a lot of lipsticks. If it's moisturizing, chances are glycerin is pretty high in the ingredients. So this was a tug of war that I went back and forth on for a while. And one of the reasons that I'm going back and forth on it is that something that is cruelty-free is not guaranteed to not be animal-derived. One of the clearest places to see this is that Burt's Bees is kind of based on beeswax and honey, as you might expect. It's a, skincare, and they've recently branched into makeup. But like all of their lip balms have beeswax in them, and most of their things also have honey in them. They're a cruelty-free company. But they're not vegan, because it's exploitation of bees or something. I would love to have someone who genuinely has the opinion that honey is cruel explain to me why honey is cruel, because I don't get it. Also, I really like eating honey. So I doubt, here again, this is another one of those things that I doubt I'm ever, ever going to convert on. Like, I don't have any interest in being vegan. I don't have any interest in giving up honey. It's just, I don't see it in my future the way that I see a potential conversion to free range and ethically slaughtered meat. It's like, it's just not on the horizon for me at all. I'm like, it's honey. People have been harvesting it for thousands of years. But all of that aside, so things can be animal derived, but not cruelty free. This is the difference between cruelty free and vegan. With that in mind, an animal derived glycerin, which comes out of the slaughterhouse system, would probably not be considered cruelty free. For pretty obvious reasons. Like, the slaughterhouse industry is not humane in any way. That's why if you look into kosher butchering rules, they use an entirely different structure, and there's only like 4 kosher meat markets in the United States. And the United States has the largest Jewish population outside of the state of Israel. And there are still only 4 central kosher markets where you can reliably find kosher butchered meat. It's a completely different process and pipeline. And this is one of the things that I find really admirable about all of the principles in Torah, is that everything is designed to lead you as much as possible towards ethical treatment, not just of other people, but also of animals in the environment. So, like, I think that this is a really, I think it happens to be very harmonious that I eat semi-kosher and I'm also cruelty-free. Like, these are ethics that line up really well. But anyway, if you look at the kosher guidelines for glycerin, you can buy kosher glycerin, which of course will not have any pork fat in it. It's designed to be used in foods where glycerin is an ingredient. As far as I know, there is not a restriction, even in the Orthodox community, in using non-kosher glycerin on your body. And the rationale for this is pretty similar to the rationale used for carmine, which is if you're not intending to ingest it, you can use it. It's kind of the concept of don't waste things. Like, okay, you found this thing, it's not kosher because of the way that it died, it could be, infected, it's probably not safe to eat, but you can still skin it and tan its hide and use its hide for something. You'll just be unclean for 3 days and you'll have to, bathe. Thank God there's a society that institutes bathing after touching dead things. Anyway, so as far as I can parse the rules, the Orthodox community doesn't have any rule against using glycerin in cosmetics, in face lotions, in hand lotions, things like that. Things that you don't intend to eat, but you might incidentally ingest a small amount of. It's the principle of use everything, rather than the principle of these animals are really nasty and they might harbor diseases and they're probably not safe to eat. Which is still my opinion on pork. I really don't like pork as a food item. It just squicks me out a little bit. But, so going through the process of figuring out where I stand on glycerin as a potentially food-derived, as a potentially animal-derived product, it has been a long-ish process. Like, I've had this video concept on my list since March, since I started my channel, and I almost feel still that my ideas aren't fully developed on it. So I would be okay. You know, and this is what my channel is. The concept of my channel is that I verbally process so that I can come to an opinion about what my opinion is. I think things through by talking them out. So as I've been sitting here and talking to you, I think that I would be okay with using products that had animal-derived glycerin in them in cosmetics, as long as they were from the food industry. My problem is when you're slaughtering animals just to use a byproduct. Right? So the same concept as hunting a deer just for, you know, the massive antlers. Deer hunting has the purpose of thinning out the males who are competing over the females, and they can't all, you know, about equal numbers are born, and they can't all mate because of the way that herd structures work. So they end up being dangerous. Which, if you've never seen a male deer up close, they're not as big as elk, but they're not small. And they have weapons that when they're amped up about the possibility of, you know, getting a girl, their impulse is to send their sharp weapons on the top of their head into other things. So this is like a really inherently dangerous segment of the animal population. So that's part of the purpose of deer hunting. It's to thin out all of these dangerous animals that not all of them are going to be able to get a girl. And a lot of them are going to die because the land can only support so many, you know, it can only support so many grazing animals. So that's the purpose of hunting season as far as deer is to remove the dangerous young males from the population, you know, just thin it down a little bit so that you have more safety all around, and so that the population doesn't expand out of control. Because that's another thing that happens. If all of those males do end up mating, you have a population boom. Which is also not great. Again, the land can only support so many grazing animals. Deer hunting has a purpose in a societal sense, but it also has a purpose from an individual's perspective. You can go deer hunting with the concept that you're just going to shoot as many deer with giant antlers as you can, and you're going to mount them all over your house. And then the rest of the animal you don't care about at all. That's not a sustainable thought process. Yes, part of the deer is the impressive antler rack. Another part of the deer is the actual meat on it. I think, personally, that it is way more reasonable to hunt deer until you have enough venison that you're going to be able to eat it for a year. Maybe not for every meal, but you can use up all of this venison stock that you have over the course of the year, and then next hunting season you're ready to go again and you have space in your freezers for more venison. Hunting has a societal purpose, and it also has an individual purpose. If your individual purpose is just the personal glory, I find that less admirable personally than if you're also going into it with the perspective of personal sustainment and nourishment. This is what I think makes hunting a reasonable occupation. Am I interested in doing it personally? No. No, I am not. Why would I go out into the woods to shoot something in the middle of the night when it's cold and you have to you have to rub scent all over your all over the clothing that you're wearing, and you have to make sure that no part of your skin actually touches the outside of this clothing, and any exposed skin has to also be touched with the scent. It is an insane process if you want to go deer hunting, and it's fine for the people that want to do it. I'm not one of those people. So that's kind of my perspective. That I guess is an analogy on how I feel about glycerin. I am okay with using glycerin that probably wouldn't be considered cruelty-free for most of the community because it's derived from the slaughterhouse system, which is not cruelty-free in any way. But I'm okay with it because I place a higher value on using everything than I do on not killing animals. So if the animals are already dead, let's use every bit of them. And even though I don't eat pork, I would still be willing to put it on my face in a very, very processed version because glycerin is so processed that it doesn't really have, like, you can't distinguish animal derived glycerin from vegetable derived glycerin by any means other than, like, knowing where it comes from. There's no distinguishing factors in the thing at all because it's like processed 3 different times to get it down to just that. It's a, fat-based humectant that is going to attract moisture out of the air. So, I hope you enjoyed or learned something or both. Like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you feel like. Thanks for watching and goodbye for now.